Test.
Call the Isabella County Board of Commissioners work session to order. Stand for the pledge, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Hutchinson,
Here.
Commissioner Engler,
Here.
Commissioner Jelzinski,
Here.
Commissioner Marino, Commissioner Swaney,
Here.
Commissioner Horton,
Here.
Commissioner Hope.
Here.
All present, Mr. Chairman, except for Commissioner Marino.
Thank you, Clerk Lux. And Commissioner Marino did inform me that he was unable to make the work session. He thinks he'll be here for the regular session. With that, next up would be approval of the agenda. We will have general public comment, presentations and special reports. We'll have an update from the Human Rights Committee, Chairperson Elizabeth Husbands, Administrator Controller report. We have no appointments to boards and commissions. That brings us to committee reports, Finance and Administration Committee.
Finance and Administration Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
The Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee is all set, Mr. Chairman.
And Human Resources and Public Works Committee.
Human Resources and Public Works Committee is all set, Mr. Chair.
We have no intergovernmental affairs, no administrative controller issues. Under unfinished business, we're going to have continue our meeting venue discussion, which we've had a couple discussions previously on that. New business, Board of Commissioners meeting discussion for August 2nd. This is a polling location, so we cannot meet here August 2nd. So we're going to have to either reschedule or meet somewhere else, but we'll discuss that. And then there will be another opportunity for general public comment, announcements and adjournment. So is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We have an agenda. And that would bring us to general public comment. I just would like to state that you will be held to 3 minutes. And generally, the board doesn't respond during general public comment, but it's just to make a statement is free to do so. So at this time, if anyone would like to address the board.
Good afternoon. My name is Selma Yamamoto. I'm from By Michigan Health. I'm not sure if this is where I.
Oh, is she zooming? No,
Did
I
you
can
hear?
get out of the way until she.
Are fine.
Okay.
Selma, it's going to be just a moment before your
I'll
place
wait.
on the agenda.
Okay, I'll wait for your cue. Thank you, Nicole.
You are welcome.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. So I'm Clarissa Philhart. I spoke with some of you today, or I just realized that Vice Chair Horton, I did not follow up with you, so I apologize. I sent an email regarding Wise Township, which is where I reside, that my daughter and my husband, along with many other Rise Township residents that I spoke with, they do not show up on the Audit Your Vote website. And what that is a snapshot in time from the qualified voter file. So it's not an accurate representation of what is there today, because today it is accurate. However, on December 1st, when a Freedom of Information Act request was placed through the Secretary of State, they took a picture of what was on the file, and that file was not an accurate depiction of what or who was voting on November 3rd. So that is my first concern. The second concern was our Wise Township tabulator being manipulated. And when I say manipulated, I mean it was taken out, it was returned, or a loaner was returned. Our tabulator is not anywhere to be found, nor is the loaner that we had. So Clerk Lux was very kind in answering all of the points that I laid out. However, again, the qualified voter file picture that was sent via the Freedom of Information Act did not show my daughter and my husband as being recorded as voting, and they were with me at the township hall voting. And I mean, if any of you haven't already gone to the site and audited your vote, I would strongly suggest that you do. My township clerk is not recorded as having voted. And obviously, it's inaccurate. So my point in this is, I think we should investigate, because this is maybe one township, maybe many townships within Michigan. I don't know. And there is a Michigan law 116 that says if there is any fraud that is evident, then our clerk, either county or township, has the ability and the resources financially to do those things. So I'm going to present that. I hope you have conversation about it. August 2nd, I don't know what could be done, but I know that using the same system again is not going to be beneficial to anyone that wants a free and honest vote. So I look forward to having conversation with any and all of you, and I hope you consider discussing it in your workshop today. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else for general public comment? Okay, we'll move on from that portion of the meeting on to presentations and special reports. We have Isabella County Human Rights Committee update, Committee Chairperson Elizabeth Husbands.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to give you a little update on what the committee has been doing. The HRC has been a part of Isabella County for a number of years. I am the chair as of this year. I've been on the committee for a number of years. I don't even know how many years now. Break, and I came back about 2.5 years ago. We've done quite a bit. This year, we've kind of focused on really looking at what are our goals as far as being out in the community, making the community more aware that we're here, and doing some outreach in the community. Over the last few years, we've done a couple of kind of hallmark events where we do the Let Peace Reign in October, which has been a celebration of peace. And that's kind of been a big thing that we're focusing on this year. That'll be October 19th. September 19th. Thank you, Laura. It's around the National Day of Peace. I don't know. I'm focused on October for some reason. It'll be September 19th and it'll be down at Island Park. So that's been something that the committee really has been working really hard on getting up and going. We have several of the community members that are going to be a part of that, and several like CFX is going to be there. We've lots of other things going on. And so this year it really will be kind of a celebration of just being able to be back together again. We'll have some music, we'll have some fun, we'll have some food, some things for the family to enjoy, games and things like that. So we're looking forward to doing that. We also, as a committee, have kind of looked at what else is it that we want to do? And so one of the other things that we're looking at is being more involved in helping the community understand what our role is. And so we're kind of looking at doing some advocacy training and doing some other things that makes the community more aware of what we are, partnering with other agencies that we work with. We have the opportunity to partner with the Mount Pleasant Police Department and do some training on self-defense for the community. And so we are just really looking at new ways or more innovative ways to make the community aware that we're here, and to just kind of look at how we can really not only widen our reach, but also help people recognize that Isabella County reaches beyond just Mount Pleasant. So committee members have been attending other board meetings and letting them know that we're here and that our goal is to do the training about human rights for other people, for other communities beyond Mount Pleasant, and to just be a part of this entire county. That, you know, we seem over the years, we kind of have focused on Mount Pleasant. And so our goal really is to kind of like look at the other communities that make up Isabella County and to kind of widen our reach. So we really have been kind of targeting our social media as well, so that we are expanding that a little more engaging and to be interactive with the community. And so we're kind of being a little more proactive and getting things out there, being aware of what's going on, making sure that we are on a regular basis putting things out there, not only the things that we're doing, but things that are related to the current events and what's happening in the world and in the news related to human rights. And so trying to be more involved rather than what we have been in the past. I've also asked the committee members to take some time to be at these meetings or at your regular meetings, and so that you can put faces and names to the committee other than when you vote them in, so that you know who is who and who is where, and to just kind of show up and introduce themselves as members of the committee and to be an active part of what's happening. Your questions for me?
You might also mention the Zoom book discussions. I
Yeah,
always thought those.
we've done 4 of those over the last couple of years. We did that a lot during the pandemic. We had a couple of books. One we did was related to autism and how Look Me in the Eye and we did that in conjunction with the library. We did one in conjunction with Bay Area Pride on LGBTQ rights. Oh, speaking of Bay Area, the Bay County has just developed a human rights committee, and they patterned their committee after ours. They kind of bylaws and all of that, and so I think that's a pat in the back for us that they've just started about 2 months ago. Ours was the closest to, they did some research and ours was the closest to what they wanted. And so they developed their HRC based on what we've been doing. In conjunction with Bay Area as well, over the last 2 years, we've done for Pride Month, we've done sign distribution out of the county building. And that's gone over really well. During the pandemic, we had people sign up and then we just kind of, HRC members dropped signs off all over. And then we did a drive-through last year. And then this year, we just set up at the county building and just had a day of come on by and get signs. And those have, I think they said this year we gave out over 200 signs during the couple of hours that we were there. And then last year, about 250 signs would drop off in the distribution. So those things have gone really well when we've partnered with other agencies. So.
Any other questions? Ms. Husbands? Not a question, but just a statement, but it's important the work that you're doing and I appreciate it. I think that we all have to work together to make this community a welcoming and safe place. And I think the Human Rights Committee works toward that end. I think that's part of it. So thank you.
I also want to acknowledge our chair who's came to support me today, Laura Gorley. So I appreciate the work of the committee and the work that we do together.
Thank you. Next up, we have our Administrator Controller report, Ms. Frost.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to say HRC is a source of pride for us. I don't think a lot of counties go to that level in regard the civil rights issues as highly. So it is rare for a county, I think, to have an HRC committee, and I'm very proud of that fact. So thank you, ladies. So we've been doing a little bit of work on the fiscal 23 budget. If you hadn't heard, finance has been very busy. I'm glad that in the process we've moved that up, and the budget calendar has been extended because I think we're going to need that time. Draft number 1 came to finance with a $4.6 million deficit, but as I had reported to finance at the time, we really had built in a lot of things that previously maybe were built in at a later part of the process. So a large number to start with. Draft 2, we were about $1.1 million deficit. Finance Committee has been open to ideas to close that gap, but certainly I want you all to know that they're holding very firm on making sure that monies are set aside and available for the Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility project, right? And committing funds to do so. And we're working hard to incorporate this, of course, into the long-term budget forecast so that we can provide all of you with that comfort that you're going to need to proceed with that project. So that is progressing. Next Tuesday, I'll take draft number 3 to finance, and we've just confirmed Lisa Hoppy will be joining us from 44 North. That's our third-party administrator for our health benefits. And she's going to talk a little bit about self-insurance option. We broached that subject at last finance. We might not have the quote back from Blue Cross Blue Shield to go self-insured, but I think it's important for us to just start the conversation about what's involved with that process. What does it look like? And of course, most importantly, what does it look like for the employees? Is that all on the backside on the funding piece, and there's no change to the employees? We're gonna find out. She may have quotes back by then, so we'll know anticipated savings. But if she doesn't, at least we can start that conversation. I just want to be clear, and this was mentioned in finance too, we're not talking about coverage changes. We're talking about how we fund it, how we fund our healthcare. And if we are talking about coverage changes, it's really come to the forefront now that what would be needed in that regard is an insurance committee, likely with representation from all of our employee groups, in a year's worth of discussion leading up to, maybe next budget year, making some coverage changes if that's palatable to the group. But that is definitely something I think that should be created and used going forward. I want to talk a little bit about the Sheriff's Office and Correctional Facility project. I want to remind you that we do right now have that opportunity. We've got locked in a 40-year loan with USDA at 2.125%. Certainly, we know interest rates have risen since we were able to luckily lock that in March. In fact, they rose the next day. But if we were with today's interest rates, potentially could add about $12 million to the project total, right? If we didn't have that interest rate locked in and we went with today's numbers. And we're learning now, if we go back to the drawing board on the project, there's a new clause at the federal level, Infrastructure Investment Act, I think it's called. It's called BABA, Build America, Buy America. And this clause requires a project to source its iron, steel, manufactured products, and construction materials from the United States. And that clause, not a bad thing, right? Fantastic requirement of the federal government if the project's federally funded. Certainly, that's going to add quite an impactful amount to our project if we would have to source everything in the US. So Clark is working to see what impact that could have on the project, but just some things we're learning that could potentially increase the project dollar amount if we go in a different direction. Important for you to know that. Procurement policy, I think I sat here a month ago and told you that some changes are going to be coming to the procurement policy. We had a procurement that we talked about at this meeting and saw some nice drawings of, and the board approved a budget amendment for that project. And then we got looking at the procurement policy, and of course in there was language that said if a company provides specifications for a project, they can't bid on that project. So my brilliant idea was to just change that language, right? So I reached out to legal, luckily, sometimes I do that, right? Make sure I'm thinking right. And they said, no, Nicole, we can't advise that you take that out. The language is in there for federal procurements, and legal counsel advised us not to change it, even if we were to say only for non-federal procurements, just in case there was ever any confusion, right? So really the solution becomes simple. Either we do a request for proposals and don't use those specs that were procured so many years ago, or we can kind of bifurcate the process, the procurement process. So basically we could hire an engineer firm, say, draw us some specs for this project, and then we use those specs to go out for bid, that company knowing they can't bid on it. So we're not going to be making any changes to procurement policy like I thought, that is how we'll go forward. But I wanted to report back on that because it's going in a different direction than I thought it would, but really it feels better this way. So I promised the department head involved when I hold projects up, generally speaking, it's for good reason, and we do have a better process coming out in the back end. So hopefully that's the case here. Just a couple of updates. We're learning more about the opioid settlement, and the hope is, we've heard from our council in that regard, that payments will start to come out, the first payments in August of this year. And remember, Isabella County stands in this settlement, I believe it's just shy of $2 million over the next 18 years. So roughly $100,000 a year going forward for a little while. The roof of the county building, that project, the roof replacement is going forward, and just saw word from Facilities Director Shoemaker that looks like it might be starting August 11th. So we'll have a lot of communications going out to our employees to alert them that that's forthcoming. I have been doing interviews for our accounts payable clerk position in admin, and hoping to round out the admin team pretty soon. What a different environment it is now with applications and interviewees and hiring. It's quite different out there. The last thing I guess I really want to say is I want to say big kudos to Michelle. You might not know, she's been over the last several months undergoing what's called the Title 4D audit. Basically, it's an IT security audit. There's that face. Yep. It's been a voluminous amount of questions she's had to answer about everything IT. We have to do this audit because we hold federal tax information in our child support functions at the county. And Michelle performed excellently. There's a few things that we scored kind of low on, but the whole process with this 3-year audit, actually late in 24, the third party Dew Point will come back. They'll look at those areas we scored low on and make sure that we're making improvements. We're improving on where we were, and that's the whole point of the game. So thank you, Michelle, for being excellent. Are there any questions for me? Thank you.
There are no. Sounds like you've been busy.
I try.
Thank you. And that would bring us down to appointments of boards and commissions, of which we have none. Committee reports. Finance Administration Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First up, consider ratifying and placing on file the June 17th, 2022 invoice list in the amount of $140,003.96. The June 24th, 2022 invoice list in the amount of $296,423.73. The July 1st, 2020 invoice list in the amount of $133,548.55. The July 8th, 2022 invoice list in the amount of $400,453.86. And the adjustment list dated July 14th, 2022. We as commissioners, because we did not have our first board meeting in July of this year because we took a scheduled break during that time frame. So we've had quite a few invoices to review. Nothing out of the ordinary, pretty common stuff, pretty ongoing businesses, normal course of business items. The administration of the spring 2% distribution to the Isabella Conservation District, that's common. McBride Quality Care, that was a big one. We had the June public defender appointments, which we see those dollar amounts every month. Verizon phone bill is always large. We had the tribal 2% grant through Central Dispatch in regards to the Rave Wireless panic button for K through 12, which we talked about here before. Nothing was really out of the ordinary. And on the adjustment list, the standard cast of characters, paying early, and that way we just have to reflect it and it's added back into the invoices. Commissioners, do you have a chance to review these? Have you have anything you'd like to discuss? In committee, we didn't see anything out of the ordinary, and we did bring it up, and we didn't, the only thing that we did not discuss was the, of course, the adjustment list. So. Okay, hearing and seeing nothing from the commissioners, that will move forward to this evening.
Next item of business is consider approving the 340B Healthcare Services Agreement between the County of Isabella and My Michigan Medical Center, Alpena, and authorize the board chair to sign the same. Before I introduce our expert from pharmacy from My Michigan, I just want to say this came before our committee about 3 weeks ago. We had some questions, and at our last meeting last week, we had 3 really capable people coming from My Michigan to answer. And I know we have 2 people, one person present, one person online that knows quite a bit about the that particular federal program. I just thought it was a great program because it provided pharmacy drugs for the indigent. But apparently it has a lot of different facets, a lot of different moving parts, and some we probably won't even talk about today, but I think all in all, we had our questions answered. But at this point, I'm going to, maybe Jim, you can participate, you know more about the program than anybody else in this room. And we also have then Selma from My Michigan. So how about if we bring this over to Selma first?
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to join you this afternoon. I'm Selma Yamamoto. I'm the System Director of Pharmacy for My Michigan Health. First of all, I'd like to thank the commissioners of the Finance Committee and Nicole, who have been patiently working with us over the last few weeks. I am here to ask for approval of our 340B Healthcare Services Agreement. And I want to assure you that nothing is changing in terms of our services. We will continue to prepare and administer medications to our patients in Isabella County at our Mount Pleasant Hospital. This agreement is to formalize the realigning of our infusion business under our Alpena Hospital due to Medicare policies that are negatively impacting payment for services. Are there any questions?
Mr. Jelezinski. Yeah, we had quite a 340B is an interesting pharmacy topic, as everyone probably well knows. I'm a retired pharmacist and 35 years. And 340B is a governmental program that was started primarily reimburse some Medicaid hospitals and Medicaid providers for medications they would give out to indigent people to recoup some of their losses. And it can also be used for that. It can be used for employees of the hospital entity. And in more recent cases, it's been used, that program, with what's called contract pharmacies. And that means not just the hospital itself, and I'm picking on hospitals, but the hospital or the covered entity, it's called, can contract with, let's say in our town, Walgreens and Myers are 2 that the covered entities will contract with, and have medications filled by patients of the covered entity at those pharmacies, and receive deep discounted prices that the covered entity does, really without the patient and or being aware of it, and if they are aware of it, quite understanding it. That is not really what this program, what they're talking about here, is involving. So I'm not going to go into the 2-hour diatribe. I know Commissioner Swaney's kind of disappointed on that I'm not going to speak for 2 hours on this, but no, this, as she mentioned before, this has to do with infusion, and they're contracting with the Alpena Hospital, the Alpena in My Michigan, so they can do infusion based off the 340B program. It's basically, I personally don't have any issues. I think it does provide a good service to the community, what they're doing, but there's way more to the 340B program than what they're doing here. Again, though, what this does is just allows them to continue to do business as normal at the emergency department over there, which is a really good, that's a good thing for our community. We don't want to see that go away, obviously. So again, much more to do with 340B. We had an in-depth discussion, but this, I think, is it's pretty straightforward what they're doing here, and I'm fine with it. So
Commissioner Horton, I want to thank you for your support through these weeks. It's been very, very helpful and appreciated.
Yeah.
Thank you.
yeah, like I said, I was, in all fairness, I was probably the very first meeting that we had. It was probably, I don't know, it was professionally handled by both sides, our side and not our side, by the committee and my Michigan. I think this is a big topic in the field of pharmacy, and there's some ongoing things going on right now with 340B, with the contract pharmacies and with drug manufacturers out there. It is a very hot topic, and you're seeing large covered entities bringing prescriptions that are being filled in the community back in-house. Okay, that really is not what what they're talking about here today is, but that is ongoing, and there's major litigation out there right now. So there's a lot of issues ongoing with the 340B program. Again, I'm not going to spend, I've spent 5 minutes rambling on it, and I gave national lectures on this. So this is a topic I'm very well adept with or can speak on. But again, what we're doing here is good for the community, I feel. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anytime you work with federal funds, even in Parks and Recreation, there's so many strings and facets to it. You try to do your best to work within the system for your local residents, and that's basically what My Michigan is doing. McLaren's probably doing the same thing, and the benefit really comes down to our local residents. So, are there any further questions from our meeting tonight?
And Mr. Chairman, that completes the work for the work session of the Finance and Administration Committee.
Thank you, Selma, for coming on.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Patiently
thank you
waiting.
very much.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, gentlemen. That would bring us down to Criminal Justice and County Affairs Committee.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 items on, and first up is consider approving the request from the Isabella County Clerk's Office to charge $50 for a cremation permit issued through Sparrow Medical Examiner's Office effective August 1st, 2022. Clerk Lux brought this to our attention that we are one of the few counties in the state that has not been charging for this permit. As you can see in the information provided, most of our surrounding counties are charging $50. We were surprised that one county up in the UP was charging $250, but this is something we've been losing revenue on, and we're just bringing it up to speed with what the other counties in the state are doing. So I don't know if you have anything to add, Clerk Lutz?
Any questions on it? I can answer them.
Okay, if there isn't any questions, we'll move this forward to tonight's business session.
All right, item number 2, consider approving the fiscal year 2021 Homeland Security Grant Program Intergovernmental Agreement between West Michigan Regional Medical Consortium and Isabella County in the amount of $22,637. Authorize board chair to sign the same. And online, we have Mark Griffiths, Director of 911 and Emergency Management, to tell us about this 2021 agreement we're signing.
Yes, it is the 2021 agreement with more agreements coming in the near future. This one allows us to work with our fiduciary for the Homeland Security Grant to be able to procure services and equipment. It's a standard contract that we have had. It's been reviewed by legal counsel, and it's just part of our process to make sure we can try to spend up our Homeland Security dollars to benefit our county. Nothing out of the ordinary in this agreement, much like the past similar agreements that we have had. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions? Again, this is one agreement where we are going to be giving back $5,500 to the region as a whole. Everybody in the region gives to the region to help out overall. Is it 7 counties, Mark?
13 counties.
13, yep. Just thought I'd mention that. Are any questions? No? Okay, we'll move this on to the regular session tonight.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
With that, that ends the criminal justice and county affairs work.
Thank you. That would bring us down to Human Resources and Public Works Committee.
Okay, we have five items on the list. First one, consider approving the distribution of the amended Isabella County Master Land Use Plan as required in PA 33 of 2008, the Michigan Planning Enabling Act. Kim Neaport here to walk us through this.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. So this is part of the process in the state law for us to amend our master plan, make modifications to that plan, or to get the board's approval for distribution. Under the state act, we're required to send the plan out to all agencies, all communities, townships, cities, villages within Isabella County, all counties adjacent to us, and all townships in those counties that are adjacent to us. So we have quite a distribution list that we send this document out for. The purpose of sending it out for them is to be able to review and see what we're doing and what we're planning for as we have borders that adjoin one another. So over the past few months, the planning commissions went through the document, had some areas that we were looking to fix and amend and make changes to, as well as update the census data and information from the 2020 census. So the key areas that they focused on were some grammatical fixes and some reformatting of the document. They looked at a few map amendments. They did the 2020 census data updates. And we included some airport layout plan language within the document that we're required to under law now. And added a policy in our goals for renewable energy, as well as updated our township survey. So if I could share my screen really quick, I can kind of run through them within the document and show you guys. All right, there we go. So this is the amended document here. Some of the things you'll see some picture changes throughout the document. I'm going to cover just kind of those highlighted areas. You'll see some picture changes through the document. You'll see in the document, we updated some board and commission members that have changed. And obvious table of contents as we added document information from the census. We had to push some things around, so we did some updates to the table of contents. So primarily, I'm going to jump to some bookmarked areas. Our existing land use. This is an existing land use cover map. The existing land use data that's in the document currently is this data right here. It's at a township level. As you can see, these maps are not the easiest readable maps either, because you have to turn the document. They're set up landscape. We're fixing some of that as we go through this document as well. But this data here is data that comes from Michigan, state of Michigan. It's a MIRIS data set. It's very old. It's 1978 data. And back in middle 2000s, we kind of worked with the townships to edit and update that data because we didn't have any new data. What we have found now is that the USGS has a national land cover data set, which is this data set here. We have put that into the document. It's the full county display. We didn't have the time to break this apart into the individual townships. So we thought, let's just introduce the new data set so we can become accustomed to the new data set within the plan. And then in another 5 to 7 years, when we do a full update to our master plan, so we'll have been 25 years old, at that point that we would go in and use this data set moving forward and move out the MIRIS data set. So simply just an addition of a new map within the document. Jump on to our next map change. We did make a change, and here you can see some of our maps have went to a portrait versus the landscape, but easier to read within the document because this document is one of the most readable documents out there. We wanted to make sure that people were actually able to flip through it without having to turn it side to side. So in Denver Township, there was a line drawn here dividing two districts previously. That line was drawn in the wrong place. It was intended to follow the old railroad that ran through and ran up into Delwyn in this area here. Here's the old map. and it's turned. So here's the old map. It was running down here. But you can see these parceled lines on an angle right in here from people's ownership parcels. That this is where the old rail bed ran, and this is what the intended line was supposed to be. So we've now fixed that up to be more in line with what was intended. We have reached out to the township to notify them that we're making this modification. We have not heard back from them at this point, but they will have time in this distribution process. That's what the distribution process is for them to communicate back with us and let us know what they think of the changes that we're making. So back to the original document, I'm going to jump into Isabella Township. Isabella Township is the neighbor right next door. We have this little angle here, same type of a thing, but it's just this little bitty triangle where my hand is on the screen or where my cursor is on the screen that got modified. As well, a little piece of land in here up in the village of Rosebush boundary was modified and changed. So there's not a lot of modifications and changes to Isabella, but they were enough that we're sending that to them as well, asking for their consideration on it, and they will be able to do so through the distribution process as well. The last map change we have would be here in Sherman Township. Remember, Sherman Township came back to the county in 2016, 15, 16, 17, somewhere in that range. And we had a future land use map for them, but they also had their own. When they rescinded their zoning ordinance and folded back into the county, ours just kind of populated behind and became the future land use map for Sherman Township. They were pretty consistent, the two of them. Here's Sherman Townships in our current plan. It's got some commercial in this area, some higher density residential up in and around the lake areas, and then primary rural residential throughout the rest of the township. The areas that we made changes to is in here along this commercial area, this gray box right in here. This land in here has already been developed into more of an industrial type activity. So we moved it out of commercial and into an industrial status because it's more representative of what's actually there and what has previously been approved in those areas. As well, right here, there's a really tiny 4-acre parcel of land. It's Lohr Manufacturing on Drew Road. They did an expansion there and added some additional land to their, rezoned some land and did an expansion there prior to coming back to the county. And so we just fixed that so that that is representative of an industrial district as well. So that has it for our map changes and amendments. And then as we jump into our census information, we updated any census data that we had currently and readily available to us. There's only two areas that really popped out within the document. There's a lot of reference throughout the document that may have gotten updated in different areas, 2020 population of certain townships and stuff. But the main things that the Planning Commission and staff took out of this was right here in this table. Here's our 2020 census number, and we dropped about 6,000 residents in that 10-year span. You can see we were climbing through all the way up to 2010, and then we had this fall off here. Now, keep in mind, this is April 1 is Census Day of 2020. April 1 of Census Day was about week 2 of lockdowns for COVID. This is early in the phase of COVID, so we do believe some of this is a result of student population at the university. And missing that student population at the university. The city of Mount Pleasant puts on a pretty big campaign, and I was part of that and assisting with the advertisement for census and working with the census group to make sure that we got all of our citizens counted. And we pretty much were shut down right there in the middle of March. So we didn't get through what we were planning to do, and I don't believe those students were counted probably at the level that they should have been counted for us. So that's one thing that really jumped out to us. And the other one, I'm going to jump to our unemployment. Again, you see here in 2010, here's an unemployment graph. Unemployment was going along, and then in 2009 and 2010, we spiked during the housing crisis. We started falling right back off, and we fell down into the 4% range. And then here we are again in April of 2020 and 2020 timeframe, we've got COVID going on. So that spiked up and jumped up another 5% as we had shutdowns. So we just wanted to point those two things out. We pointed those out to the Planning Commission. We want to make sure that you saw those. Other than that, most of our other income and household, there were small changes there. They weren't significant. They didn't tell us anything different than what we're already seeing in our county and what was previously assessed in the 2010 or 2000 censuses. The next thing here is on our airports and approved airport plans. So the state law requires us to incorporate into our master plan the approved plans, airport layout plans of airports that file them with us. So what we did here was we just basically created a small section within the document that talks what about airports and why they're important to us for moving people and goods and services around. And what our objective is to make sure that we have compatible uses around. Some of this came up with the turbines. Our turbines around the airport area are shorter than the other turbines in the non-airport layout areas due to airport layout plans. We did reference the law, and we have listed those plans that basically we had that have filed with us and that are on file in our office. And that is the City of Mount Pleasant Municipal Airport, the Clare Municipal Airport, Lake Isabella, Woodruff, and Ojibwa airports as well. So those 5 airports are, we do have airport layout plans for. Next, we're going to jump into our goals, and our goal with the economy goal, the second one, to support and encourage economic diversity. Our bottom bullet point on the next page, page 47, is in reference to our turbines and renewable energy activities that we're seeing in the county. And we basically implemented a policy that says we're going to support state initiatives to diversify energy consumption and increase clean energy production through renewable energy resources. It kind of puts some backing to the 2 turbine projects that we currently have in, as well as some of the solar projects that are still being discussed in development stages to potentially come into Isabella County. And then the last thing that is of significant change within the document is the survey results done by the townships. So back in 2006, we surveyed our townships. Let me rotate this back. We surveyed our townships, and we wanted to get another eye on seeing what their thoughts were about the goals that were established within the document. And so the same goals were sent to that township boards, asked them to rank them for us 1 through 4 and send it back to us, and we would update this document. What I would say is the top 4 or 5 score getters were continuously the same. They were the same in both this study as well as the previous survey. Some of the others in the middle and end of the project, or in the end of the survey, were they might have moved up or down 1 or 2, but these 2 that are in yellow here took significant hops up. They moved over to this first column in like, I think, number 5 and number 8 overall. And they are to preserve the rural character of those portions of the county containing significant natural features and are outside of urban areas, and to provide balanced recreational opportunities throughout the county. Well, back in 2006, we were working towards our millage for recreation. And so I think with the millage and recreation, I think it's made our citizenry and the people living here in Isabella County a little more aware of the recreational opportunities that are going on around the county because they've scored it much higher. It's more significant and more important to them. So those are just 2 things that I saw pop out in the survey. And that's why I wanted to share those 2. So here's the current document and the current numbers as they've laid out to this point. Now, 2 townships have not gotten their surveys back to us, but we've sent out several requests to get that information from them. We have not received it to date. We're going to continue to do so as we go into this disbursement period, which is their time to review, and hopefully they'll get us something back by the time we move forward for adoption of this document. So that's what I have in a nutshell there for you with the update. And today, all we're requesting is that you support and approve the distribution of this document for review by the townships and counties as required by law. I'm going to unshare my screen here real quick. There we go. Any questions?
Em, I want to thank you. This is a real lengthy report that you gave us last week. but you hit on everything in the report. And means a lot. I mean, there's a lot of understanding there, and you brought us right up to speed, and I really appreciate what you've been working on.
Thank you.
Just a comment. I kind of read through the report. It's interesting reading. There's a lot of good information in it. But I noticed that Deerfield Township has the highest per capita income of all the governmental entities. I wonder if that's something to do with the Engler Farms.
I thought the same thing.
I think that's likely the answer. You're correct.
Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll move that forward to tonight's meeting.
You know, I did, Chairman, I did have one more thing I forgot about, and Administrator Frost asked if I would pass this along. So there has been some questions recently, I think, surfacing, some coming to our office and some coming to commissioners. And it's about the turbine project in the center part of the county. That turbine project has had some shutdowns recently. Turbines haven't been spinning. We've been getting calls from people asking how come the turbines aren't spinning. What I want to let you guys know is that ITC is the substation owner of the substation that is served by those that the turbines serve. That substation is making some modifications and some changes. And so when they change at the substation, it's all lights out. Power's got to go down. So there's also been some questions about what about the lights, the FAA lights on top? Those go out as well. So what the owner and operator does, DTE gets notice from ITC that there's a shutdown. I think there's one starting up next week on I think they said the 25th. It might have got pushed back a week, but that's been the discussion we've had. So what happens is ITC will notify DTE. DTE immediately, if there's going to be a period of shutdown of more than 30 minutes, they are required by the FAA to file a notice to airmen. It's a document that's required if there's more than a 30-minute shutdown of any facility that is regulated by the FAA. These are all regulated by the FAA, required to be by our ordinance. And so they have to follow that process. So what they do is they file this notice to airmen. It goes into a log to pilots and airmen that these lights will be off. So avoid the area. So if you have a planned flight through the area, you're going to want to avoid it. So DTE has done everything appropriately that they need to be doing. But we down here on the ground, when we don't see them spinning, we wonder why they're not spinning. I just wanted to pass that out as information. So if you see them not spinning, there's a chance the wind might not be blowing either. But if you see them not spinning, there's also could be a shutdown at a substation and lights could be down. But rest assured, DTE is filing their airman's report with the FAA and such.
Mr. Chairman, I forgot. Thank you for bringing that up because I did, and I contacted Nicole. I did receive information from two of my constituents. You know, I don't think they can see the turbines, but they're not actually in their district. But anyway, my question to you is, I got to thinking about the lights, the red lights not being on in the evening. Two thoughts come to mind. One, we've had people coming before our committee before inquiring about it, the retrofitting or something to do with the lights as far as getting, I guess, the smarter lights on there now. That's one issue. The other issue is when filing with the FAA, I immediately think of airplanes, but does that include helicopters? And again, this is an ignorant question. I don't know the answer to it. Do helicopters have to file with the FAA? I know we have some medical flights that come through. Are those type of aircraft, are they FAA approved? Do they have to go through FAA? Because I don't know that answer, but that would be.
I don't know it for sure, Commissioner Horton, but I do believe so. I know their licensing for an airport for like a helipad is similar through our Michigan State Aeronautics Commission. So I do believe that they file the same way through the FAA.
Yeah, I know, because I know they may land at the airport, but I also believe that McLaren can have you know, and also helicopters doesn't necessarily have to land there. They can land in fields. If there's a bad accident, a helicopter will fly in and do that. So hopefully that's a part of the requirement. I have no idea one way or another. I just think when we have tall structures like that up there and they're dark, we may know it as a community that they're there, but someone not familiar with our community doesn't. So
I mean, the FAA is you know, has this as a requirement of theirs. The FAA has been around a lot longer than zoning has been around, and so I assume that all of those factors have been taken into account when they file their airman's report.
Okay, like I said, that was just a question. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Tim.
Tim. Okay, we'll move that along to tonight's meeting. Number 2, consider approving the fiscal year 2023 funding amendments and multi-year plans for volunteer programs between the Michigan Department of Health and Human Service, Aging and Adult Service Agency and the Isabella County for the foster grandparent program in the amount of $204,254, and the senior companion program in the amount of $90,265, and they're authorized the board chair to sign the same. And we have Jennifer Crawford here to report on this.
Hello there. So in front of you, before you is our multi-year agreement for our foster grandparent senior companion programs. So this is our 3-year agreement in addition to the fiscal year 23 annual agreement. And this is so for fall of 22 through 2025 is what the agreement. And our foster grandparent program, that's our program where we have volunteers that go into local schools and preschools. They provide one-on-one assistance to students who might be struggling and just help the teachers in any way they possibly can. And our senior companions, they go out into homes and also nursing homes, and they just basically provide companionship or friendship to those who could use a visit. They read to them. They sometimes bring them into our congregate meal sites and just get them out. They play games. So they're just a friend to those who could really use that. Wonderful program that we're really proud to have here at our Commission on Aging. And so we would really hope to, in total is $294,519 with the state. And that is approximately 50% of the budget, total budget for our program, which we have 3 full-time staff. And it is just wonderful. It's very, very exciting and really makes a huge impact in our community.
And with COVID over the last couple of years, the schools have kind of suffered a little bit in this program. So this is another way to get them up going. The grandparent program is just a unbelievable program for schools to use and kids to get involved and really help somebody that's struggling with one-on-one attention.
Absolutely. And it gives a lot back to our volunteers themselves as well.
Absolutely. They rave about it. Commissioner Engler?
Yeah, I know over the years I've been going to your acknowledgement dinners, and for some of the people that served 20, 10, 15 years. Are you going to get back to that this year? I'm really looking forward to that. So
25th, we're actually holding our first in-person, like large scale, our first recognition for our foster grandparent senior companion program. So we'll definitely be getting some information out. I know they're in the works of planning it and trying to find some entertainment, and it may not look like some of our the previous ones we've had, and probably next year we'll get back to like the normal recognition, but this year they're going to have a really nice party and give out the awards and years of service and recognize them. Yeah, thank you.
And then we'll move that forward to tonight's meeting. Number 3, consider approving the mini grant contract between the Saginaw Arts and Enrichment Commission on Isabella County for additional funding for the Art from Our Park 2022 event, and authorize the board chair to sign the same. Supervisor Suen.
Good evening. I'm back again with some other news on the Michigan Arts Council. Actually, I realized it's with the grant for this, the Arts from Our Park, we signed with the Saginaw Arts and Enrichment Commission. The Michigan Arts and Council are the people that that distribute the funding. But this is correct that we had received funding earlier in the year. They had some extra money, $300 for this program that we've had. We've been funded for seven years now, and the program's been around about 15 years. So it's required that another grant agreement needs to be submitted for this program for the $300. And if approved, then Chairman Horton can electronically sign the document. Tobin, I'm looking right at him too. I'm so used
I've been called worse things.
to. Sorry about that.
That's all right.
All right, Chairman Hope will be signing that agreement if approved. And I do want to point out, I did in committee, it is an unusual way that they put it in the contract. Under the additional $300, it's under section 4, paragraph 3. They say the sum of $300. I don't know why they repeat it, but it's the way the electronic agreement was made. So we did call on that, making sure, well, I was hoping we'd get $600, but it is only $300. So with that, it's a small amount of money, but we're grateful for the additional funds for this free program that we run out at Deerfield Park in the fall.
Yeah, another good program with the parks, and just a little way to get a little bit more money. And other question? Seeing none, we'll move that forward to tonight's meeting. Number 4, consider approving the Mount Pleasant Area Community Foundation grant agreement in the amount of $11,000 for the Chippewa River Erosion and Canoe Project, and authorize the board chair to sign the same.
Okay, so this is the project that we've been working on over the last couple of years, trying to get it off the ground. And I'm happy to report rock has been delivered to Majeski, if you've gone by Majeski Landing, and they get started tomorrow. So, but with that, we tried to get a little bit more money since our price went up as stated in the staff report. If you guys have any questions, please feel free, obviously, to ask me. But as you know, with as much as I've been here, we've been just trying to raise a little money here and there to offset the increase in cost for this project. And we are very grateful as well to the foundation. We asked them for specific monies that go to the, and so we presented a grant to the Mount Pleasant Area Community Foundation, and under their umbrella is the Access to Recreation Funds, which promotes improving access to facilities in our community, and that definitely fell within that this project's ability to ask for those funding. They did approve our funds for $11,000, and so it's offsetting a little bit the match that the parks are having to do, and thrilled that they will be able to see a direct improved access that may have difficulty accessing the grants with their canoe, kayaks, or tubes. The main launch is right by the trailhead, and it's quite steep and it's very sandy. So that's definitely the one that you'll be able to see most clearly, extending the access to that, and then also putting down better, pea gravel, dirt, and we'll have some limestone in there to solidify and not have so much sediment in the river. And it'll really be a much needed improvement. And I think it will be definitely improving the access to the river. It was asked during our meeting that, down the road, we hope to put in, maybe some easy docks. I know Midland has a couple of them in their county, and the city of Mount Pleasant, Chris Bundy, who was the parks director there. And I had talked about, one day having that installed or having sites installed. So that really does even increase the accessibility, barrier-free, even more to access the river in your canoe and kayak. We do have one at Coldwater Park, if you remember, that was part of the boat launch out at Coldwater Park. And that is, used quite a bit for folks that are in a canoe or kayak out there. Just makes it a lot easier. You sit on a bench, you can sit in your kayak, and then it has rollers and it gets you out into the water. And when you come in, you just paddle it's not real tough, and there's bars to pull you up, and you roll bars onto the dock, and then you lift yourself up onto the bench, and it's pretty neat to see. So it's very helpful for limited accessibility or needing more help. So we're getting closer to that to improve these launches. So we're grateful for the foundation, and if approved, we will add that $11,000 to the park project. And as you see in the last paragraph of the report, before alternatives, which were none, lists all the funders that we have for that project. So it's a lot of partners in our community. So
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? Mr. Land?
Sweeney.
Name tag drop.
Oh, no. I want to thank you for being tenacious and continuing to get funding here and making this ADA accessible as well. And two, I just went down the river last night from School Road to Majestic. We staged a car at Majestic. Parking is tight there with those rocks. They're really big and there are a lot of them.
there are, yeah.
So I look forward to seeing that landing come together after all your effort.
Thanks. Noting too what you just said, we do have signs posted, but it's really hard to say what date each launch will be done. So it's, we have contacted the liveries that do utilize the launches, so they know for tentative dates, but it's just going to be too hard. So when it's closed, but there's other alternatives, and we'll keep them posted each day to let their customers know where they can pick up. But other people will just know by our gate attendants. So it's going to be a little, Majeski will be done, we hope this week. It should take them about 2 or 3 days. And then the next will be the number, they call it the number one launch, will be the trailhead launch. But when the trailhead launch is under construction, there's another launch by the swinging bridge that there'll be, information that they can head down that trail. So it's a little bit of logistical. We're on Facebook. We have a press release that went out, but we just kept waiting to know what day they were going to start, and that came out. It got changed on Friday due to a delay they had on another project. But we're looking forward to hopefully it'll just be a couple weeks, 3 weeks maybe. We hope so.
That river is a wonderful asset for Isabella County. And last night it was just beautiful. My wife got to do birding for 3 hours and my dog got tired.
I bet. You guys canoeing or kayaking? Did you say?
Canoeing.
So good.
Kylie likes to jump in and out.
Yeah.
So you have to use a canoe.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions. We'll move that forward to tonight's meeting. And fifth on our list was consider approving the use of Isabella County Material Recovery Facility equipment reserve fund balance to cover the skid steer repairs and associated costs in the amount of $35,746.05, and authorize the board chair to sign budget amendment 2022-10. And Jake Wharton.
As you can see, we had a bit of a mechanical issue with the skid steer. Unfortunately, that was a skid steer that we bought in December of 21. So less than 6 months old from the time that we ended up having an issue with it. We obviously, we've been following our normal maintenance schedules. There was some, whether it was a misunderstanding or exactly what happened, we've handled all of that. We've added some additional training and things of that nature to make sure that we do not have this kind of an issue again. Nicole and I had a discussion on it as to, what my suggestions were and avenues going forward. So she's well aware of everything that we've put in place as far as increasing our maintenance schedule from a weekly to a daily, checklist on that skidster. We do that now with our trucks anyways, because as a CDL driver, each truck has to be checked on a daily basis to make sure that everything is as far as up to grade to be able to go out on the road. So we've done the same thing with the skidder now at this point. But the unfortunate of it is that, the dollar figure that we ended up having as far as the repair cost on it. That repair cost also includes the lease of a skidder, which we were down for about 4 weeks. We had a month lease on a skidder that we were lucky enough that McConnell was able to, you give us a brand new skidder on a lease that they intended to sell as a new piece of equipment. But I think now what they'll do is they'll end up leasing that piece of equipment rather than selling it. That's one of the programs that McConnell has in place anyways. So yes, so my recommendation at this point is that, we use the equipment reserve fund to cover the cost of the skidder and the lease on a skidder as well, a new engine, and ask the board chair to sign the budget adjustment that's attached. Any questions?
Okay. Just an unfortunate thing. One of those things that for your facility, we've got to do, and jump right on it and thank Mr. Connell for his help in getting us through this too. So, okay. Forward to tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Jake.
Completes the work of the Human Resources and Public Works Committee.
You, Commissioner Hutchinson. And that would bring us down to intergovernmental affairs, which we have none. Excuse me, we have no administrator controller issues. Under unfinished business, this is an item that we agreed to revisit periodically, the meeting venue discussion. We here at the Commission on Aging, since we went back to live meetings. I don't remember when that was, almost a year. So I guess I'd just like to get a feel for what everyone would like to do.
I think this worked for us and the crowd.
I would echo that. The only, tonight, I just, noticing, you hear this, the air conditioner hum up there, and it's, I'm going, wow, I'm getting really sleepy. Then I realized, wow, that's because the air conditioners, especially on when your presentations are going, that hum of the air conditioner. It's like, oh. Yeah, it is. It is if you're not in a meeting. But no, there's a lot of pros to this building. Using this facility, obviously, if we have to, there's also on here a discussion. Is this part of our discussion? No, it's going to be, I guess, on the next new business. So I won't have a discussion now. I'll wait for the new business side. Again, it's to me, I think we're, depending on what you see, depending on what you believe, are we through? The reason we're here is because of the COVID problem. Are we through that yet? Depending on what you see out there in the media and what you see in reality, I don't know. Okay. So is this probably the safest bet for not only the commissioners, but the general public coming in here? Probably so. So I think just in regards to that, I'm in favor of it. But also, I think it also gives us better, Michelle can speak to this probably better than, definitely better than me, is I think some of the ability to, with sound and video and everything, I think is just much better than what because we're now a hybrid entity. We're not an entity, we're a hybrid meeting. And we've got to have the capability not only of doing this, just us here in the room, but getting it out there. And I think this facility is set up better for that. You look at what the city has and their little control room and all their nice little stuff. And, we go back to our building and, it's nice. And not saying it's not, but it's to carry on a hybrid meeting, I think it's going to be very difficult. So just for the two factors now that I've stated, I think that we should stay here, and I'll wait and hold my discussion to the new business for the next board meeting.
Mr. Engler.
Okay, I'm ready to talk.
All right.
I just didn't want to be first, no. I think the main discussion should be, is this going to be permanent or not? If it's not going to be permanent, or if it is going to be permanent, then we're got to figure out what to do with that empty space over in the county building, which is being underutilized. So, and maybe, you could redesign other things, but that's the only problem I have. I said, this is a wonderful facility. Everything works nice. The air conditioning works nice. The sound is good. We have a lot of room for the public, but it does bother me that we have a whole a whole room that's not being used for anything except to collect air. So.
Well, we do still rent. We don't charge, right? Jessica? We do
Committee
still
meetings.
reserve the rooms out. I mean, they are being used. There are meetings
Okay.
happening in there. Generally, those meetings aren't electronic or hybrid. But as you know, we do have an RFP that we're going to release to make those improvements there, hopefully in the future. So it was never my impression, understanding, or intent to be permanent out here, but it's on the table, certainly.
Sure, you kind of spoke to it. I know in the upper committee, we talked about making the improvements, electronic improvements to two rooms. We haven't moved this forward yet for approval yet by the board, correct? So we're not on any kind of schedule?
Correct. I intend, because the ARPA work group did approve an audio visual upgrade to board chambers and room 320. I will be bringing that actually to finance next week with the rest of the ARPA work group recommendations for current year projects and fiscal 23 projects. And that would be a fiscal 23 project.
I've kind of been concerned. I don't know how much disruption we're causing for the Commission on Aging when we have this room, if they would otherwise utilize it. I do know that we're looking at a problem on August the 2nd, so maybe we can go back at least for the one day so that we don't have to schedule and hold our meeting there and maybe have that discussion further there.
I'd say throughout the summer, I would love to stay here. I know August 2nd is a different discussion we'll talk about, just because of the high ceilings, the ventilation in the room. I do and have been to meetings in 320 and in the commissioner room in the past 2 weeks, and have been over the months with those meeting committees. So the planning commission last week was in the Board of Commissioners room. The planning commission has, I want to say, is there nine commissioners there? And then, of course, Ray Johnson and Tim Newport. And then there's usually a smattering of 6 to 8 people in the audience. And it is a tight fit, especially around the dais or whatever you call that. With the, I guess, 11 people there, it's pretty tight. I guess I'll just leave that out there and say, I think we should be here definitely until we can do a hybrid in 320 or the commissioner room. And so that if there's overflow, perhaps we can have public in 320 and bring people down to speak face to face.
Anything else? So I think there's a consensus to stay here for now. Tentatively. And
If she'll have us.
Pardon me?
I said if she'll have us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We brought cookies.
I think we can move on unless anyone else wants to speak to that item, and I don't see anyone. So we can move on to new business. August 2nd, this building will be used as a precinct location, so we cannot meet here. Our choices are meet somewhere else or reschedule. Yes, need to know what everybody thinks about. Vice Chairman Horton.
My thoughts as part of the discussion would be keep the date, August 2nd. We've had that date published for quite a long time. And so that would be then where would be the location. My first thought is we've been holding meetings over at 220 or whatever room, correct?
225.
225.
Yes,
I think I
sir.
would know that after 10 years, but it is what it is. So that would be my first thought. We could hold them up in 320. So I got that room correct.
Yes, sir.
We could hold them up in 320 just to see how that would work. I don't know logistics on audio AV. So that would be a problem. Yeah, a curveball thrown out there. Could we go to another venue in our area and use that site, i.e. possibly the city who has all that? I don't know if that's a possibility or not.
Does that serve as a polling location?
Oh, that might be,
Also,
yeah, that could be the same
As
problem.
does Union Township
That
Hall.
could be the
It's a
same
tough, yeah,
situation,
the day impacts. a lot of
So,
us.
I don't know if the high school, that could be a polling thing, who knows? So we're running out of options as far as other than our county building. So I guess my thought would be keep the date, have it at the county building and then come back here. So again, other commissioners, go ahead.
Commissioner Joseph.
I think having it at the county building for one meeting, but there is another option, and that's at Mid-Michigan College. They have a large meeting area that they've made available without cost to community groups, and maybe they would host us for one meeting. And I think they have all the AV set up over there. Get a chance to see the college.
I think another option is vendor office.
Yes, sir. It's gonna be tight, obviously, with, but I think we can pull it off. It's gonna be similar to 225 or 320 for that matter, probably for audio, but
Go ahead.
I was just wondering if the new road commission building is set up with audio. They do have a nice new setup that we did have one meeting there, but that's a nice building. If you haven't seen it, they might host us also, so.
great thought.
I'd say, I'm not sure that if we are in 225 that we have audio. We have- Which was a problem before and was a problem at the planning commission meeting last week. So
Audio?
if we do end up having it at the administration building, I would encourage us to utilize 320 as well as a remote video site where people can come downstairs if they need to do public comment and view upstairs if they feel they want to be spaced. And I do like the ideas of Mid-Michigan College and the road commission. I've been out to see the road commission building, and I think that if you haven't done that, you should do that.
Not seen it.
Yeah,
Out there, it's nice.
There are a lot of different venues, I think, for one time. Again, we're brushing up against 12, my math, I have to do math, 14 days. I should have been able to do that pretty quickly without even thinking. But yeah, 14 days to plan it. And, venues have been reserved and trying to meet with other entities. I mean, there's a lot of other choices, the road commission, our own facilities. We didn't talk about Central, we didn't talk about Saginaw Chippewa Indian Tribe. They've all got venues that, they've got meeting rooms even. I mean, there's a lot of different venues taking our show on the road, so to say. But we got 14 days, so I would think in my logistics of everything, unless you can get something done starting tomorrow morning, I would probably say just use our own facilities. Again, just because of the short-term planning of it, I think it's, going to a different venue and doing it is one thing, but given the length of time available, I would think just using our own venue might be the best route and do it as a one-time thing. So, that's just where I'm at with it. But again, I like the ideas of using other venues too. I think that's wonderful to involve other partners in our community in our meetings. I think it's positive, but I don't know if it's doable in such a short term. So.
I would then, I'd suggest that we check with road commission, and if it's not, we, move forward with the intent of preparing the administration building. I mean, it's kind of an easy call them.
I think that makes sense. I mean, the road commission may be available. And most of us have not seen that.
Yeah, maybe they'll give us a tour.
Yeah.
We haven't heard from them since we gave our full faith and
That's right.
financial support from the county.
We'll get Tony Caselli to have cookies for us too. So he'd be, I'm sure, be very pleased to do that.
I was gonna kind of let that discussion go where you gentlemen took it, and I'm glad it went where it did. I'm in favor of keeping the date. I don't think changing the date's a good idea. We've done Tuesdays for forever. And stick with that. And so we could go back to the county building, or possibly the road commission. We could kind of leave that up to our administrator controller. If you could set something up with them.
Yes, sir.
That sounds wonderful. Anything else on that topic? I don't see any hands up. So we'll move forward. And next up would be general public comments. General public comment. I don't. Michelle, do we have anyone online? Okay. Then we can move to announcements. Commissioners, any announcements?
Chairman Hope.
Yes, Vice Chairman Horn.
As everyone, as county commissioners, we have a chance to serve not only on this dais on Tuesdays, the first and third Tuesdays, but we also have a chance. We also are engaged in our large committees: Finance Administration, Human Resources, and Public Works, and Criminal Justice. Whatever. It's been a long day. But I've also served since I've been on the board on the Medical Control Authority Board. And we had an interesting meeting last time, and it just touched base on a lot of things where they're going to be now, if they're setting up a program to give out naloxone kits. If the ambulance goes to a site and someone has overdosed and was administered naloxone, they're going to make naloxone available to that family or to that entity or that group in that home or facility, that they have a kit available at all times. They've been able to provide it. That's been available in the community for a long time. I know some pharmacies are involved. In my previous life, our pharmacy was involved here in town. Doesn't require a prescription. You can just go up and request one. The issue was with payment. That's always been a problem. Not heavily used. But there are, I think, other entities. I think the health department or there's other entities. Interestingly enough, I am just anecdotally been made aware that people use these things. There are lot of time drug houses have these kits available to them. I don't know, for whatever reason, maybe they're just wise enough to have them on site. Unfortunately, as I've mentioned in the past, there's a games called not games. There's situations called the Lazarus game where people overdose and then get brought back. That's another situation, which is really scary. It's still being done. So again, I think it's a good thing for the Medical Control Authority Board and that as they're recognizing that that is still out there in our community and it's not going away. We just had our opioid settlement discussion today and we're going to get funds for that. But it's a serious problem and that's not going away. So anything that you can do, if you have a loved one or somebody that you know is having issues with opioids, fentanyl, things of that nature, to make sure they have those kits available, readily available. It can save a life and it's very easy to obtain. You just have to do it. So, and I think that's all I'm going to say on that matter, and I'm going to sign off. So.
Yep. Any other announcements? Commissioner Engler.
I do. I always want to make sure I don't want to repeat anything, you know. I talked to a couple of the commissioners earlier about this. And it happened last night, and it's just to kind of make you aware a little bit that it's in an investigative state right now, or due diligence, where 3 of the Dollar Generals or dollar stores are seeking dark store status, which basically it came from the big box stores where like the Walmart or Kmart, when a store is no longer operating or empty, they want to use that value as the store that is actually operating. So for an example, there was 3 of them. One of the stores that was recently sold 2 years ago was like $1.2 million, and they would like to go to the tax tribunal and ask for 600,000. So, but basically half the value. But considering how many stores there are in there, of course, you're talking a smaller footprint, and it might not happen. Actually, there's a guy that we're talking to that's going to do some research on fires, what the tax tribunal has already done on that, but something to keep track of, because there is quite a few stores in here and it could have longer term effects on other businesses that are empty or might want to use that same evaluation. So like I said, just heard about it last night. They just got the letter from the township, so it's fairly new up there. So it happened in Deerfield. So I'll keep you updated on it. We're going to try to keep track of it because it's, like I said, it could have some implications on our tax value. So that's it.
Yep, thank you. Mr. Sweeney.
Yesterday, we had our first E. coli ad hoc meeting since 2019, when the law or resolution for septic systems be checked and make sure they're working properly before sale in the public. And so we had a report from Central Mission District Health Department, Steve Hall and Steve King, on that work. They've been checking out septic fields and wells, making sure that the septic fields are going through treatment. And there were, I want to say 160, 140 homes identified in those few years that their wastewater now is being treated where it wasn't before. And it's equivalent to like 17 million gallons of treated wastewater. So that's not going into our environment. We also had reports from Chippewa-Saginaw Tribe on their work on continuing to do sample sourcing from Chippewa River and the North Branch to continue to go on. They're kind of in the middle of that right now for this season. So we'll find out the numbers for 2022 probably this fall. But we'll have, you're going to have to help me. We're having our next E. coli ad hoc meeting the third Monday of March at theoretically at the same time, 2 p.m. But it will be announced and be posted at the administration building. Anything else, Tobin, to add?
I would just add that committee, I mean, COVID came along and we didn't meet for quite some time. I think our last meeting was in 2019, November of 2019. So it's nice to get that committee back up and running and get the tribe there. The tribe hadn't been part of that committee previously. So you're talking about water quality testing. Health Department and the tribe are the two big players in that. So it's nice to have those two entities be part of that. Corinne Foss from the tribe did tell us about a committee they're getting together with some folks from CMU and some other entities. And I'm trying to find in my notes what that was called. I'm drawing a blank.
Watershed
River
Watershed Alliance.
It's a formal designation from what I understand, and it'll allow that organization to be eligible for certain federal grants. So CHIP's a great resource to this community, great recreational resource, and we have to protect that in all of our waterways here in town. It's good. And Commissioner Swaney chaired it and did an excellent job. Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other announcements? I just have a couple. Community mental health has a new executive director. As you know, Isabella County is part of a 6-county community mental health authority. The executive director, John Obermesick, retired. The deputy director for a number of years was Brian Krogman. He was hired as the new executive director, and he'll be visiting us, I think September, October, along with probably the Isabella County Program Director, Jen McNally, to kind of give us an overview of what's going on in Isabella County. The agency overall has a $138 million budget. 128 million of that is Medicaid dollars. And they turn that money into a lot of very interesting programs and help a lot of people with it. Our appropriation toward that, we just got a letter about our appropriation, is $216,300 a year. So for that money, the agency spends about 34 million on programs just in Isabella County. So it's been interesting being part of that entity. So that's all I have. Any other announcements? Hearing and seeing none. Is there a motion to adjourn?
No move.
Support. All those in favor, say aye. We are adjourned at 5:42.
Especially during tip.
Finish my meeting.
And I had caffeine. It's cold.